Welcome to Democracy Differently, the podcast about why democracy isn't working and how to fix it. Today I'm sitting down with Tatton Spiller, founder of Simple Politics, to discuss how to truly explain politics and engage people in ways that really matter. So Tatton is an author and of course the founder of Simple Politics, as I've just mentioned, a former teacher, journalist, and I believe you even worked in the Houses of Parliament for a short while, delivering workshops with schools.
So, yeah, 3 years that. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. So thanks so much for taking some time out of your day today to come and chat with me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I see you've had some very intelligent people on. I feel like it's cleverer company than I normally keep. So thank you.
I don't know. Maybe we'll get into it and then, yeah, I'm sure you'll fit right in. So we always ask everyone the same first question. So in a sentence, what do you see as the single biggest problem with democracy?
The message that comes out from Parliament and politicians that this isn't for you, run along, this is for us to deal with.
I think that's a great problem for us to get stuck into. So I guess the first question for people that might not be as kind of au fait with Simple Politics. So what is Simple Politics and what do you do?
It's a project that aims to help people have better conversations about politics, better informed, more tolerant, more listening to people. It's now fundamentally a social media project. Mostly, we've got 1.4 million followers across platforms. They're quite spread out. We're on lots of platforms, an unmanageable amount of platforms. But on Instagram, we've got 870,000, I think something like that. And we are there drip feeding every day, all the time, 2-3 posts a day. This is what's going on. This is what people are saying. Here are some arguments, helping people just get a fuller, better, calmer response and understanding to things.
Right, thanks. So on this podcast, we talk about what's gone wrong with democracy, right, and how we can use different novel ideas to fix it. So what problem were you trying to solve when you first started Simple Politics? And is it the same problem now, or has your mission kind of shifted slightly with the way that political speech and engagement has changed?
I think I understand the problem more, even if it's actually the same problem as I started with. When I was working at Parliament, we had very strict impartiality rules. So the only thing we could talk about with young people when they came to visit us was processes. And no one cares about processes, right? Like literally no one cares. So I felt from then that there was a better way to do it. And then there was an education bill. I was teaching, right? And there's an education bill that came through Parliament, and I didn't get it. It was the bill that changed GCSE grades from letters to numbers, right? Which shouldn't be a difficult concept to grasp, but I found the idea of counting from 1 to 9 to be far too challenging. So I hit Google to help me get a grip of what this bill was about, and there was no one who was just telling me in a nice easy way what the bill was about. And I was like, but surely teachers need to know this. And how can we possibly engage with politics if a fundamental law that is going through Parliament, a new bill, isn't involving teachers? That seemed nuts to me. So that was originally the idea of SP, was to track bills going through Parliament. And if it was a health bill, like send an email to the nurses who have signed up or the doctors who have signed up. And it's an education bill. So people would sign up to the different things and I'd keep them in touch with what was going on. So it's set up with this incredibly complicated website. And no one visited the website because who goes to websites? And so I was like, aha, I need to be on social media to tell people about it. But it's about engaging and informing. And then I think just the anger of everything. Just the more engaged and informed people are, then they can understand and maybe understand what other people are coming from. That's the big thing. And I think that's our calmness and our tolerance are as important as the information that we pass along. So I suppose it's a very long answer to a very short question, so I apologize, but it's the problem is the quality of political conversation in this country, and we're trying to make that better.
Yeah, great. So do you think we, as citizens of the UK or wherever our listeners are, have a kind of civic duty to stay informed with politics?
No, 100% not. We have a duty to engage them. We cannot sitting around saying you're not interested in us. I mean, that's what, classical music conductors are always moaning that no one likes classical music anymore. So, but you're not getting it listened to. Like, there's all kinds of things, and especially I'm a big cricket fan, right? And people don't watch Test cricket anymore. People don't like the 4-day county game. I mean, they should do, absolutely, because what a wonderful thing to do, to just sit and watch cricket all day. Beautiful. But I understand that it's not for everyone. So that's okay. We can do different things. Telling people off for not being interested in the thing you're interested in isn't okay. So no, absolutely not. There's no civic duty for anyone to be involved or keep themselves informed. I mean, I feel like you've lost a political argument if you bring up 1984, right? Because it's people are always like, it's 1984. But in 1984, they have to watch the screens. There's an episode of Black Mirror as well where he has to watch the screens. And this isn't how we are. You don't have to do anything. It's not your civic duty. No.
Great. I mean, I'm a T20 fan myself, so maybe that's part of the problem, right? Is that things are very difficult to understand. So I watched a simple version of cricket.
No, but both exist. I love 2020. I love going down to Canterbury here in Kent. I love to go and watch Kent play in the 2020, and it's full and it's vibrant and it's quick and everyone's into it. But I also like maybe the House of Lords version, where I can just sit and enjoy that because it's equally valid. But we have to accept that most people don't want to watch the House of Lords debate.
So what do you think politicians then, and people who work in politics more generally, journalists, everyone involved, should be doing to help make it more simple to understand?
I think we step away from the crux of it too easily. Politics is there quite simply to make the world a better place. Everybody agrees. Eliminate poverty, create growth, right? Happy, improving life. And there are some disagreements even on that, because for whom are you improving life? Is it everyone on the planet? Or is it just in your country, or whatever else, or your continent, or NATO, whoever else it might be? So we don't always agree on even that, but fundamentally, no one wants anyone else to be hungry or cold. So everything in politics is about solving those problems. Even at this podcast, right at the beginning, you said, what problem are we solving? Right? That's the heart. That's the soul of politics. Politics on that level has nothing to do with people. It's got nothing to do with who's in, who's out, who's up, who's down. It's got nothing to do with early day motions. It's got nothing to do with committee stages and scrutiny. Like, it's a conversation about how do we get something better. How do we make the trains work better? What is it? Is it better if they're run by private companies or the state, or what? What can we do? And everyone's got an opinion on that. Everyone on the train, anyway, is like, oh, they just need to do this. An understanding that is about politics, and understanding that there's a restaurant opened on our high street, and a lot of people were up in arms because they had like a little courtyard out the back, and people in the evening make noise in the courtyard out the back, and all of this, and suddenly we're having conversations about what kind of economy we have. How much are we supposed to sacrifice for a nighttime economy? What about the people on the margins, the people who will literally have drunk diners outside their window? These are hugely political conversations and engaging ones. Should people have to suffer that or not? And when you get into these issues just as issues and listen to what people say, people know how to improve their lives. So listen and understand and phrase things in a way that says, this is the problem, this is what we're going to do about it. And then suddenly it all makes sense, because you get Reform and the Conservatives and the Greens and Labour and Lib Dems all sitting around one problem and going, we would do this and we would do this and we would do that. And people would go, oh, now I'm aware it's more complex, because to solve one problem you have to look at another, and it's in the round it is more complicated than that. But this fundamental solution to problems is where politics could focus and could engage in a way that it doesn't now.
I think that's definitely right. Like you say, the kind of the problems we're trying to solve are pretty simple problems. They might have very complex answers, but we've all got our own opinions on how we'd solve those problems. So do you think the complexity of politics, especially kind of party politics and the way that government works, etc., it kind of benefits those who are already in power?
I mean, I suppose so. What it does, it creates an idea that you're either into politics or not. And you're not supposed to talk about politics at dinner. Like, you're not, like, because it's tribal. Because the reason you're not supposed to talk about religion or politics at dinner is because it will create arguments, and we don't want any arguments at the table, because it's tribal. And actually, you shouldn't be arguing, because if you believe, I mean, just use that train thing. If you believe that private companies competing against each other make a more efficient train system, and therefore we should do that, and I believe that the state should own it because it's being run for the people, and the state can work out a national picture much better, that's not something to argue about. That's something to explore. I could be probing and asking you questions, and you'd be asking me questions, and that's, well, for me, that's a very enjoyable evening. So it creates this idea that it's not for you, and a political class. And we have now a much more diverse range of people in Parliament in terms of state education. But university education is not a very diverse group at all. Like Oxbridge. And in fact, most of them went to the same colleges. Like, it's not even the same universities. So it's really easy to see that it's not for you, and that, you know, a lot of Labour MPs came up through the NUS, for example. And again, there's a political class, and then there's everyone else. And that, it just underlines that you're into politics or you're not into politics, rather than understanding that every single person is interested in politics, because the problems they talk about on a daily basis are political. But when we don't address them as such, when we overcomplicate, it does it? I mean, yeah, it does benefit the people in power, I suppose, except that they're not representing people. I don't know. I don't like pointing fingers saying, oh, you're benefiting from this. I think that people have to play the game as it's been set up, and changing the rules of the game is very hard.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of on the idea of changing the rules. Do you think that clearer political information and political messaging can increase civic participation and maybe even change how people vote or feel about certain issues.
100%. I mean, Reform have done it really well. Really, really, really well. They come out and they say, this is this. And Nigel Farage, a lot of people think a lot of things about Nigel Farage, but he sits at the end of a press conference. He sits down at the table and he says, right, we've got a long list of questions. And he takes 20 questions from different journalists, different places, outlets, and he stops and he listens to the question and he gives you a response there and then. And no other politician does that I've seen as much. And I watch a lot of politicians. No one else will listen and give honest and open answers. Maybe Zach Polanski a little bit, but actually Zach Polanski doesn't put himself in front of the public all that much. He does a lot of rallies and he does some interviews. I mean, he does quite a few interviews with podcasts and whatever else, but he doesn't do this kind of open press conferences that Farage does. When I spoke to Zach Polanski, he was very keen on Farage. He was actually wanted to mimic him in various ways. I'm very open about that. It was when he was contender to be the leader rather than actual leader. He's too fancy for me these days, I think. But Nigel Farage has demonstrated, look how successful he is. And I think part of that is his openness and clarity of message.
Yeah, and I mean, democracy is all about representing the people, right? And it seems at the moment that many people feel ignored. So having a politician who will sit there and answer questions at the end is a way of engaging. And so do you think this kind of simplification of messaging, whether it's in these kind of forums where you're speaking with the public as a politician, etc., can help rebuild trust, or can it also become a barrier?
Trust is such a fickle beast, right? I think that everyone has a plan until they're punched in the face. So you can have as good policies as you want, and you can lay them out in front of the public and say, these are our policies. And then you get into power. And I mean, as we're talking now, we're just at the end of week 2 of the Iran war. So 6 months ago, we just couldn't have seen this coming. Or maybe we could if we were, whatever. You don't know what's coming up, and events are going to get you in trouble at the end of the day. So people aren't going to trust you. People voted for Labour in 2024 and haven't got what they wanted. Now, there's lots of reasons for that, and Labour will tell you their inheritance, and they'll bring up the Liz Truss mini budget as often as they can, and now they will bring up Trump's actions in Iran. All of this, and there is some truth to that. Some truth. I don't know how much truth, but people see that they voted overwhelmingly for change. And they've got Mandelson, and they've got zero growth, and they've got all the rest of it, and that destroys trust. Whether Keir Starmer is actually a very trustworthy, honest man isn't the question. I don't know if he is. Maybe. I know that the public feel let down by him. So would it be different? So we got Farage. We're just talking about Farage's messaging being quite simple and engaging. If he got into power and found that he couldn't do all the things that he said, I think people would probably feel let down by him and further trust. The reality of things is that they're difficult, and so building trust is hard.
Has there been a single moment then in UK politics, do you think, that has damaged this trust in the system, or has it kind of been a pylon of various mishaps and mistakes? And
I think that it's easy to think of politics now as being more divided and less trustworthy than ever. But if you were in a mining town when Thatcher was closing the mines, you wouldn't have felt that trust. You would have seen some serious divisions, right? I mean, in the 10, 11 years I've been running Simple Politics, Barnard Castle was the single moment. I mean, in that pandemic time, during that first lockdown, we all worked so hard, and then for Dominic Cummings to take that trip, just people felt so let down. By the time we got to Partygate and we had the PPE stuff and whatever else, it had all gone already. That element of trust, that element of togetherness, it had already gone. That trip to Barnard Castle. And then he gave a press conference in the Rose Garden, and he was like, "Oh well," like just that was the moment for me. And I think that the damage he did that day is still felt. A different government now, but it's still felt, and it impacts on Mandelson, and it impacts the way we feel on that. A collective trauma by betrayal, through betrayal.
Yeah, you've just brought back lots of lockdown memories for me.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Well, no, it's probably quite apt for talking to you now, because I think it was probably during lockdown that I found Simple Politics on social media, and started using your work basically to understand what was even going on. So yeah, voting and all of that is obviously really important, but it's not the only way that people can participate in politics. So what has kind of developing Simple Politics taught you about how younger people might want to engage in democracy?
I don't even know what that means, engaging in democracy. Like we've got a government now who say they're going to increase engagement by allowing 16 and 17-year-olds to vote. But how is that increasing engagement? It doesn't, in and of itself, it doesn't change any engagement whatsoever. Just, I mean, it increases the number of people who can vote, but not engagement. I think when I was in Spain a few years ago on my summer holes, there was a playground, and it had a big sign that said, "Your council has just redone this playground." And it was like, oh, brilliant. So you can decide whether that's a good spending of council money, or the potholes that haven't been fixed are a good spending of council money. And we've just had, again, here in town, we've had our basketball court relayed, and everyone's loving it. And there's no sign. There's nothing tangible that says, and that's a really good way of engaging people. I mean, our council have chosen specifically to help our young people out, give them somewhere. Like, it's a free space, right? It's in the middle of a recreation ground, so it's just somewhere people can go and hang out, and they do, and it's nice. And there's no sense of knowing that was the council, of understanding that's where our council tax has gone, and that was a choice. And again, potholes are everywhere, and there's other things that the council could have spent it on, but they chose to spend it on that, and that's engaging, that decision. So we need to make it more open and more obvious that what we're talking about, you know, whether you're allowed to be on Instagram, whether you're allowed to vape, like these are like nitrous oxide. Young people don't vote, old people don't like nitrous oxide, so nitrous oxide's banned. So that's engaging.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, Simple Politics, your whole mission, right, is to engage people in these political conversations. And like you mentioned, you use social media to do that. But do you think social media has strengthened the way that people can engage in these ways by kind of amplifying people's voices? Or is it the age-old question about, have we weakened our democracies through misinformation and outrage and all of those lovely algorithmic things?
I think about echo chambers, and I think about the anarchist book festivals that they had in the Red Lion Square, and again those mining villages, and you look at what happened at Orgreave, and you look at various like ways of finding your news, and Channel 4 news being to the left of BBC News, which was generally to the left of ITV News. So even when we only had 4 channels, you're still choosing where you get your news. And there's people selling the Socialist Worker outside the tube station, and there's people selling the Telegraph and the Times and the Guard. So we've always been able to choose where we get our news depending on what news we wanted to hear. Always. I don't think that change makes much of a difference. I think it's easy to find, I don't know. Of course, that the rage bait is new to some extent, monetizing people's anger. Here's a problem. If you give me money, I'll help solve it. That you see on the left and the right. That sucks. But is it worse than it was before? It's different to how it was before. This stuff's always been around. And there are ways that politicians are speaking to people directly that are positive on social media. So I don't know.
No, I think that's a great answer. It's the same problem that we've always had, right? Just a different form that the problem's taken.
Yeah, the human condition goes round and round.
So let's move on to some quick fire questions then, that we like to end on. So I guess a quite easy quick fire that would follow on from that one is social media good or bad for democracy?
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough. So what political topic do you think is the hardest to explain simply?
To explain? I mean, when you get into rules about financial institutions, like things that are opaque and complicated, and the government does need to, whether you want to regulate or not regulate is a big question, but the public just don't understand it or really care. So I mean, anything that's got that kind of complexity behind it is very hard.
Great. And what's been the most surprising question that you've been asked about politics or the UK political system, any of those sorts of things?
I'm not surprised by any questions. It's just people. I mean, I was a teacher for 10 years. God, those guys can ask you questions that you never dreamt of. No, there's no question that would surprise me.
Great, because I've got a bit of a silly question for you now. So
let's go.
If you had to explain the state of UK democracy right now in 3 emojis, because Simple Politics does quite like an emoji sometimes, which 3 would you choose?
You can always tell us my colleagues who have done stuff because there's emojis. I don't know. Is there a listening emoji?
There's an ear, isn't there?
Is that I don't speak emoji, I'm afraid. State of it. It's about listening. It's about not listening to people. But is there a hope emoji? I don't speak emoji, I'm afraid. I also don't think it's possible to describe the state of UK politics, because politics isn't what you see in the House of Commons exclusively. You can talk about the state of the House of Commons easily. It's fragmented. It's argumentative. There's no narrative that solves anything. The Labour government announce things, but their backbenchers force them into U-turns. It's a bit chaotic. It's a bit of a mess. But that is not the state of politics in the country, because that's a totally different ballgame.
Great, and that's probably a really nice segue actually into the final question that we ask all of our guests. So if you had to pick one thing for democracy to do differently, what would it be and why?
Oh, it's just chat, isn't it? Politicians are used to talking on the doorstep. And presumably when they do that, I've never had an MP knock on my door. Presumably when they do that, they do talk and listen rather than just broadcast. So more of that. Listening. Politics has to learn to listen more rather than broadcast.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I haven't had anyone knock on my door either, actually.
Have you not?
No.
You always hear about a good ground game. I've never really lived in a marginal seat. I think that's the problem.
No, that's yeah.
If you live in somewhere like, I can't think of a single marginal seat. I mean, if you there was in Caerphilly, you had a by-election recently. You must have had everybody knock on your door all the time.
Well, I think that's a nice note for us to end on anyway, isn't it? So thanks so much, Tatton, for coming on and
Thanks
for
for having me.
it's been such an interesting discussion. So yeah, if everyone has enjoyed the show today, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I've been your host, Jess Sutherland. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you. Bye bye bye.